reason why I've kind of wanted to create this event. And I'm really keen to inspire the next generation of salespeople and sales leaders. And as you noticed, I've kind of called this sales confidence. And so my question to you, and I'll start with Neil at the end, is when you're identifying positive traits in salespeople, what are those traits that demonstrate sales confidence to you, or what does sales confidence mean to you?
I think, again, you get used to my acronyms there, but over the years of sitting in interviews, my overarching thing is I think some of the best salespeople are people that are comfortable in their own skin. And I link that to 3 core traits that we question around, and the anagram's LAT, which is loyalty. I don't mean you've got to be married for 10 years, by the way. I just mean people that say when they're going to do something, they do it. People that can execute. From attitude, I've learned people that have a positive can-do attitude. You know, the famous saying, if it's never someone else's job, we look for people that have that trait. And I think it's so important in startups. It's kind of my background, you know, where yes, you've got a job, you've got to hit the number, but there may not be 10 pieces of collateral already written for you on the marketing team, on the case study, perfectly with the ROI. You know, you've got to think and find a way to do it. And the last one's tenacity, which is you need to have this insatiable appetite for winning, you know, and keep going, right? And then there's 26 letters in the alphabet, so if plan A doesn't work, keep going.
Great, thank you. What about you, Andrew?
Similar, so I try and get the belief that you're on a mission, and I look for people who are, you know, prepared to show that they're on a mission. I kind of say, you know, the sales team's a tribe, and people understand that phrase, and then you've got to be on the mission. I look for people who have got that real desire. The other thing I look for, by the way, is you can call it coachable, but it's a kind of an honest humility about their strengths and weaknesses. And one of the misnomers about salespeople is that they're braggarts. I think the best ones are the ones that are, I tried my hardest, I failed, help me. I think they're the best sales. So I look for a core of honest humility amongst salespeople as well. And there's ways of testing that in an interview as well. So that's another one I look for.
Great. Simon?
Yeah, absolutely agree with Andrew. I think humility is really important. I think the best sales guys I've ever worked with have this ability to be, they can operate on different levels. So most salespeople are very comfortable with relationship building, the kind of friendly helper mode. And then a few get into the logical thinker, there's a business case, there's an ROI, and then some are brilliant at closing. The best sales guys are the ones that can do all 3, and they can kind of flip from one to the other at ease. But it's whether a customer at the end of the day would write a LinkedIn recommendation from a sales guy. That to me is a litmus test, saying this guy was brilliant to work with, great experience, but we got value from the experience. That's a real sign that you're dealing with somebody special.
Chris, I guess from a VC perspective, when you're advising companies in your portfolio, what are you recommending the type of sales leader, commercial leader that they hire?
I think I wouldn't go down the leader. I think in the early stages, it's like that film, The Dirty Dozen. You need people that are extremely resilient and they aren't particularly normal. Like someone mentioned earlier, the founders, you know, they don't operate with the same, you know, mental processing. They're kind of very difficult to nail down. They have what we would classify as a delusional force field, if you see what I mean, which is why they're mad enough to, you know, try and convince the world that it should be upside down. So I think early on, when there is no infrastructure, those sorts of salespeople, you know, they are the product, the proposition, the relationship, the brand. So they tend to be not necessarily the highly scalable ones that are required when you get to the playbook stage. So I think really early on you need those sorts of people, and you know, later on, you know, it's probably easier to, you know, what you need a commercial partner to, you know, build that out. So it's easier to get that bit solved, and then the value rolls downhill. If you get that wrong, then you know you're going to be in trouble as a founder.
Great, and all of you have got international experience and working in different markets. And Andrew, you kindly pointed out you've been doing that longer than most of us.
I've been on the planet.
What I'm curious about is kind of how the UK SaaS companies that are being founded can compete with the US tech companies landing in the UK. Because particularly over the last kind of 5-6 years, the large enterprise tech companies like Amazon, like Facebook, like Salesforce, like LinkedIn, they've all opened up huge offices in the UK, and they attract sales talent into that. So, what do UK founded companies need to do to, I guess, punch above their weight? And I'll start with you, Andrew.
So I don't know the answer to that. I'll defer to Chris on that, but I think there's a lack of ambition. I think that's one of the things I've noted. Demandware was founded in Germany, by the way, by Stefan Schambach, and ultimately the exit was 2.8 billion. So he had a global ambition, and he thought differently, and I think that's one of the key things. The earlier exits in the UK potentially they don't play the long game, and he wasn't going to sell. He didn't need to sell. He wasn't going to sell until he'd got maximum sort of trajectory on that, and so it transpired. So I really admire that he played the long game, and I think maybe that's my learning. That's a German guy, but he also in the end he reincorporated into the States. So that's that's my only really real experience of it myself.
Okay, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, it was mentioned earlier. Actually, I think we Notion is sort of founded on the basis that we just think Europe has an amazing amount of talent. It's got an amazing technical depth, and we have our own vertical markets that we're really strong in. FinTech being one that's obvious, of course. But I think the ambition point is very real. So we think about the fact there's all of this unrealised potential that's in Europe that we want to foster and exploit as VCs. So I think that ambition and being able to think at scale, and founders will typically be in the biggest job they've ever been in, which is why I come back to the fact that they need to augment themselves and surround themselves with people at each different stage, and they do need to reinvent their company over different stages. We did that at Message Labs. And without that scale of thinking and that ambition, and without augmenting themselves, then it's going to be extremely tough. In Message Labs, we massively over-indexed on hiring. I personally interviewed thousands of people, every of the 60 odd top 60 people in the company. I personally dedicated huge amounts of my time looking for the people that could help us build Message Labs. We were 650 people in 8 years. So, but yeah, we were the market leader. 2 US competitors opened the same year we opened. They were half our size. They sold to Google and Facebook, Google and Microsoft. We sold to Symantec. So, it is possible, to go toe to toe, as the German example exists, as other of category leaders do. So, but I think without the scale of thinking and the ambition and augmenting, it's hard.
So just one more question before we open that up to the audience. Simple question: who's the hottest SaaS company in London right now, or the UK?
Apart from Go Cardless.
Well, Neil.
We're talking startup. I'm going to say Pecan, aren't I? But and there's lots of songs. The reason I would naturally pick my own company, because I'd be mad not to with half my team in the room. But it's true. I think what defines a hot startup is disrupting something. Right? It's the classic. If you can get a really good David Goliath battle going, people love an underdog in this country. I kind of linked a little bit with the other question of where do you get started. But people do love an underdog story. And I think one of the exciting things is if you could pick something that's truly transformational, and where we're going in, like kind of the HR spaces, they haven't really had a lot of cool tech. So there's a huge opportunity in this market space. So I think there's a lot of cool players that are playing in the HR space at the moment.
Great. Andrew?
Well, I do think it's Go Cardless. I really do. We're solving a complex problem that has got a huge barrier to market entry. I mean, we're regulated like a bank, and we have to be regulated in different countries, and we're doing that. So we're solving a very complex thing with a high barrier to market entry, and we've proven out the model. So I think we're a scale-up, are we, Chris? You'd call us a scale-up or a grow-up? So I think we're the...
Good.
And we're
You
hiring,
say
by the way.
startup is
We're
Pecan, but scale-up is
Okay, okay, yeah.
There we go. We're dividing and conquering.
We're hiring, by the way, so...
Well, Go Cardless and Pecan obviously are the 2 picks. Company like Swift, a very interesting one. They're going very, very quickly. Company called Aula, A-U-L-A, one to watch out for.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are probably the topics.
Chris?
There's a few companies in my anti-portfolio whose doors I tried to kick down, burn down, and couldn't get into. Intercom is obviously a really, really hot. I love that company. It's great. I've actually announced a deal that we closed last month, which announced today actually, which is locals.com, which ships the Uber experience as code. So I think everybody is effectively moving to mobile, and if your services and goods when they get delivered to you or when you're meeting them aren't executed in a mobile experience, then you're dead. I think you're operating in the 70s when you get those little cards that get left at the door. So, and it's attacking vertical markets that are going through huge disruption. I've also got one that's not quite closed yet, but I mean it has the most amazing CAC and LTV numbers I've ever seen on the planet. It's in Gothenburg, so you could probably figure it out. I tend to do deals that people don't understand the reason why they do them. They're kind of quite often not obvious at the first point of call, including within Notion. And this is definitely one that's fitting there. The CAC payback is under 30 days. So the speed to value for the customer, which is something that I'm obsessed about, is quite incredible. So one of the things that you can look at is how much time does it take the customer to get value. We can normally give you an indication about the pain that they're in, which is one of the big things that I obsess about, which drives demand, and the speed for you to monetize that, both as an investor, a salesperson, finance guy, you name it. So
Great. Thank you very much. So we're going to open up questions to the audience. If you just want to raise your hand, and I'm going to pick it up over to you. If you want to just introduce yourself.
So my name is Xavier. So my background is 2 startups that I've since exited, and I'm a hired gun now for corporates wanting to innovate. And one of the things that I'm noticing is I'd like to get your thoughts on how do you take a product, a SaaS product that's recently entered the market, arguably it's a consultative sale, and what have you guys done to try and shorten that and make it a very scalable product?
If you've got a good product market fit, which I'm assuming where you're at, how do you take that product market fit and reduce your sales cycle? That's kind of what I kind of picked up from the question. Is that
Sure.
correct? Yeah. Okay, well I can go first. So I'm a big believer in Chris Pam's book, who's part of MuleSoft, which is like the 10x business development model. So one of the things we've invested in quite a lot is a very young, hungry, intelligent BD team. So we've got SDR, sales development reps, and we've taken a slice of the market where we believe there's the lowest hanging fruit. That's how we started to scale that, and then we have a ruthless focus on getting into those areas of the account. So we leave marketing to do kind of the big bang stuff, raise the name, raise the brand, and that drives its own way. But in order for us to scale it, we needed to get a market share of the key accounts that'd be most successful for us as a business to get to the next stage. So we're looking to get to like our B round of funding. So our investment's been in a BD team to help us take that market out, a message of focused named accounts.
Any other responses?
Well, hi Xavier, good to see you again. Yeah, so the consultative sale at the beginning, when you're disrupting a market, you're going to have to handhold a client. But then as soon as you start getting scale, your sales team has to divide into hunters and farmers, and you make it you kind of dumb down the offering in a way and make it very simple. At the beginning, you have a lot of options and you can confuse customers, but you need to try and make it very simple when you scale, particularly when you're going international. There should be a playbook, but there's a journey you need to go on. But at the beginning, you have to try many different techniques before you get that model.
I guess in practical terms, to answer this, you look at your sales process, why is it consultative, and chop it into the component parts, and then you would look to see, well, what content can I inject at various parts here. You can do a consultative sale with video or with a playbook, and you can do quite a lot of it online. And so you can actually then take a lot of the thrash and the time out of it. And if you think about where you inject content in, the actual process itself, you may be surprised. A lot of people are coming and they're 70% done on the sale. So you don't necessarily need to do the consulting sale. That's the traditional model from the the enterprise days of 20 years ago. I don't think that is fit for purpose now in SaaS, and I think you really need to chop your process up and think about injecting content and doing as much as quickly as possible through that process.
So one of the things that we got a lot of attention when we were raising money was the amount of effort we put into like automation early on. So we invested quite heavily again in like our sales toolkit. So everything from, we have this like cool thing, anyone that goes on our website, we capture the data, it's enriched, we can get content out on a stream to people straight away. So there's already, to your point earlier, most of the time people come to us, i.e. they're going to take our call or they're emailing or coming onto our intercom. They are already at a decision where they've probably looked at 2 vendors, right? They're going to buy something. The challenge is make sure they buy you. But a lot of that work to get to 70%, previously is the hardcore kind of cold calling stuff. A lot of that now we do through automation so that the BD team pick up the stuff that's most relevant. I think a lot of the time the consultant sellers spent like, trying to figure out who the right person is. You spend a huge amount of time selling your story, selling a message, and that's a big people cost doing it that way versus getting them focused on stuff that's real.
Next question.
Yes, Laura here from a company, Thompson's Online Benefits. So my I guess my question is in the context of post-exit decisions. So I guess to give you some background, my organisation's just gone through an acquisition, VC, B2B, SaaS company, being acquired by a big HR consultancy, Versa. And I'm in this 9 months down the line, do I ride out the wave of a new corporate beast? Or do I look at new ventures and go back to SaaS? So I guess it would be good to get your perspectives of, given that you've been in these exit scenarios, when to stay or when to go.
Chris?
So this is definitely a question for me. So I was when you get to close to the exit, I always think that you're already a hostage to your opportunity. You've got to get the thing over the line, So I was definitely at that at Message Labs. Then you've got the acquiring company, so you end up giving a lot of advice and taking good care of the people that you've taken with you. None of those people would have wanted to work for the acquirer. They didn't fight to get that opportunity. They didn't interview for it. They didn't believe in their boss that they're about to get. They then have to go through their, job leveling process, pretty ugly. So, it can be quite a miserable period. So I'm, an alternative thinker. So I knew that Samantha had a swearing policy, or an anti-swearing policy. I'm a bit of a potty mouth, as you may have noticed. So when the big cheese from HR turned up and I was one of the bodyguards for the integration, I decided that I'd swear quite a bit, and then obviously I had to remind him that I knew it, and it's a bit of a joke, but I kind of put my marker down. So so the first answer is, you got to think about your exit strategy. And for some people, when they get acquired, the opportunity is amazing. For the engineers at Message Labs, tremendous opportunity for them to go all around the world. Huge infrastructure for them to learn, to play at a bigger scale. Salespeople and the biz dev in the US, huge amount of infrastructure. Targets became infinitely easier as a consequence for that. So, but I actually just went through a 9-month consulting period with one of my mentors. I just racked out a spreadsheet about what I loved doing, what I was good at doing, what I got paid a lot for doing, and so on and so forth. And then looked at, what are the sort of opportunities that I should go to next time. So I think the thing is to, most people are not going to like the initial part of an integration, but you should just take some time and make sure that the next decision that you make is a really well-informed one that you take time over.
Laura, I would escape.
Well, the swearing policy, also definitely do have a swearing policy, which Thompson's VC backbone definitely didn't. So that's a good example.
Go contact us. They're looking for a good talent.
But I think this is one of those times as a salesperson you have to trust your emotions and your gut. And I've been acquired a few times, and I've been an acquiree, and I just couldn't get on the mission with a couple of the acquirers, and I knew it. And it could be lucrative, and you may have golden handcuffs, but ultimately you've got to make that decision with your heart, and you probably know already, deep down. So you've got to balance heart versus risk. And I always say the riskiest thing in the world is to not take a risk. And so, especially if you're a successful salesperson, you're always going to be in demand. So my gut would say, if your heart's not in it, leave as soon as possible, with your head held high and not swearing in the meeting rooms and stuff like that.
It's one-on-one.
Yeah. But I would say trust your heart and just go with that.
And I had a real personal example very recently with Huddle being acquired, and had this opportunity from a financial point of view. I could see what it would be worth to me. But again, spoke to a mentor, which was another common theme out of this, and the question they asked are, do you like being a shaper or do you like being a creator? and then we detailed what it was. And my passion is in building something. It's in turning the idea into something that then you see your first 5 customers, then 20 customers, 100, and that's what I enjoy doing. I kind of, you only get one shot at life, so why would you do something that you don't want to do? You can always re-earn money. You'll never ever be able to re-earn time. So that's kind of what informed my decision to go and do another startup again.
Next question.
I'm Ben Hookway I'm the CEO of a company called Relative Insights. But my question is at the opposite end of the lifespan of a company. So how easy or difficult is it to be the first dedicated quota-carrying salesperson in and be the person who's viewed as the one who's going to build a team as well?
Bloody hard. I've kind of, like I said, kind of done it twice now, and it is. But I also like every challenge is an opportunity, right? It just depends on which way you look at it. And for me, it's a chance that you are on the front line, and you've got to have the confidence to say what you think. I think that's probably one of the challenges I've seen. Maybe in my early days when I was doing that role, my first job, is you kind of go with the flow of what the management team was saying, and yet you're the guy dealing with all the problems. And I think finding a way as that first sales guy, whether it's a leadership role or you're the first guy on the phones, of being able to clearly articulate what you need to be successful, because you will be able to shape those conversations. Best bit of advice I've given when you're doing that is put things in tables. Like if you put something in a table with who does what by when, then you'll get senior leadership looking at it. If you try and do pretty graphs with GIFs on and all sorts of flashing animations, then it doesn't work. So yeah, to answer the question, how hard is it? It's really hard, but it's around focus and discipline, and finding the right way to articulate your message to senior leadership to have an influence.
When I've been in those positions, the key thing I struggle with is finding enough time to recruit, to build my team. Because you're in the firing line, you're the guy responsible for everything, and you think something's going to give, and you think, bloody hell, I should have started my recruitment way before, and I should have a pipeline and bringing my network in. So it's an impossible position to be in, to be both the key guy and to build a team. So you're going to need help. So raise the flag early and get your recruitment engines going.
So a follow-up question then. So if you're recruiting this person, does it make more sense to recruit a quota-carrying person to do the number and then recruit the leader to build the team? Does it make more sense to split the responsibility?
Yeah.
For me, absolutely not. For me, I start with every founder is you're not building X, you're only building that if everyone buys it. And to do that, you need a commercial partner. This is a CEO of go-to-market, if you like. And so they're a rare breed, and I think someone said scarcity equals opportunity or something earlier. It's absolutely right. They will apply all of what they've learned in the past, all of the mistakes that they've made to that specific situation. They won't just roll out the sort of Salesforce best practice model, so there's a huge amount of emotional skills, there's a huge amount of background experience, and there's a certain type of intellect, if you see what I mean, that comes together. So that doesn't mean that you can't hire salespeople first, but I will say all you're going to do at some point down the line is you're going to be needing that commercial partner to help you build a big company. So
I think when you do it the other way, the other thing is when you then bring a leader in to do that, and they've already got a team, there's a good chance those people that were there first won't survive, because the first leader comes in will know who his right-hand man or woman is that will follow them over, and you can then actually cause a delay in your number where you almost reconfigure part of your sales team. So I totally agree in getting the guidance of the right-hand man to help you take the product to market commercially, and then start scaling the team.
Great. So we're just going to have one more question because I know you've been sitting patiently.
Hi, it's Josh from GoCardless as well.
Plant. All right. Next question.
Yes, we are also.
A couple of you have mentioned about belief being really central. Just wanted to hear if you had any thoughts a little bit more about how you harness belief amongst your team.
There's a couple of ways that I do. One is that you need to remind people every single day of the mission of what we're trying to accomplish. And I don't do that by talking around the number or necessarily around like Peakon specifically. It's around the opportunity that sits in front of us. And if we build this company, to be a leader in the employee engagement space and the journey that we will go on, there'll be very, very few people in the world that have been on that journey, but everyone in the world will know who Peakon is. And it's getting that people to believe in where we want to be, rather than, because trust me, startups will be up and down, right? You know, that's the nature of the beast. But if people are always looking at where the end goal is, and they feel inspired by it on a daily, whether that's through your PowerPoints, whether it's through your one-to-ones, whether it's leaning on the rest of the leadership team in all hand decks or whatever you need to, but you need to keep that factor of why you're doing what you're doing, and that keeps people looking ahead rather than just what's happening tomorrow. They look further ahead of where they could be. So a lot of it's isn't cheesy, but it is really good communication.
What I would add to that as well, is particularly from a founder and being at the receiving end of a sales leader, is there's always the big vision that you need to buy into, but it's also giving you small wins along the way. You know, belief and confidence is built over time. And so, for example, if your targets are so high that you miss them month in, month out, your confidence goes down and your belief in what you're doing goes down as well. So I think as well as having the big vision, there needs to be achievable bite-sized aspects along that journey so that the individuals in your team build up the belief as well.
Yeah, just to reinforce that, there's no drug like winning in business. Right, it's great. More engineers, more product people, more salespeople, more marketing, more leads. You know, so I think I'm a big fan of the McKinsey's 3 Horizon model. So, you know, you're starting at where you are now and then where you're going to end up, and there's somewhere in between. So it breaks through a lot of the things about being able to articulate, you know, what happens when you own this entire category, and, you know, it's a big company that's addressing a lot of customer pain and need, if you see what I mean. The fact that might be, you know, 4, 6, 8 years down the road, the fact that you can articulate that is very, very, very important.
Right.
Like a lot of the hot buttons for the sales guys I've worked with, it's not the financial rewards, funny enough, it's making an impact. So, you know, you have one sales career, what are you going to be doing with it? You're going to look back, talk to your grandchildren about, will we change an industry? So it's all about sort of understanding the impact you're going to have, I think, is a key hot button when it comes to belief.
Yeah.
And from a more tactical point of view, and this is tactically, is we use our customers a huge amount. You know, we leverage the customers to come in and talk to the sales guys, because that inspires them around what they can do and why people see value in the product. They're bound to believe me, right? You know, because I mean, I've got the Peak-on slogan embroidered on my shirt, right? That's how much I believe in the mission. So they're bound to believe it from me. But when you get your customers come in and talk around how their work has been transformed from the technology that you've placed to the point on impact, that's incredibly inspiring for sales guys to want to get back and smash their phones.
Great. All right, I think we're good to wrap it up there. So I guess a round of applause to the speakers, please.